Again, Alex Bancila here with the legendary Uihlein. I looked in the dictionary, various meanings of the word genius, and the first thing that comes up, it goes, a genius is a person who displays exceptional intellectual ability, creativity, or originality, typically to a degree that is associated with the achievement of new advances in domain of knowledge. If you replace knowledge with platform tennis, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that you're a genius.
Wow. I think you need to talk to my wife more often. I don't know. Thank you for the compliments, but
this is not me saying this. This is pretty much everyone. Players who think they're copying certain players in the way they hit spins. You might think you're copying that player, but what you're doing is you're copying a player who's copying Uihlein. You invented the way the current game is being played. How did that come from? Where did it come from, the spins? How did you think about it? Tell us about it.
I guess when it comes to the spin, I guess I've been serving and volleying in tennis since I was, 8 years old. I was always a very aggressive personality. I didn't have it in me to sit back behind the baseline and hit moon balls. So when I came into platform tennis, I think there was a fair amount of lobbing. And I figured, how can I win this point? I really enjoyed trying to spin the ball as much as I could and almost got addicted to it. And I had to figure out when to hit it and when not to hit it. But I guess spin's one part of the game that I think I obviously had something to do with. But I'm watching these guys nowadays, and you could Flip's sitting over there, and I remember his two-hand backhand, and him being one of the first to kind of hit a two-hand backhand. And now you look at Parsons, and I might have changed one part of the game, but now the two-hand backhands and the ground strokes are really coming on, and the game just keeps evolving.
I will never forget the first time I saw you, because your name was kind of like being mentioned by certain players, paddle pros, whatever, but I'd never seen you play, and you create this image in your head of how that guy looks, how the guy plays, and then I see you at Short Hills, and I see you wearing this mock turtleneck, and I see you wearing the large white pants that the press housewives wear, and you got this hair with this thing that you're very proud of. And I go, no, he can't be that. That's not him. No. And then you start playing, and I remember I wasn't able to take my eyes off of you. You're playing in the semis at Shore Hills. You and your partner Dave Kevens, with whom you won 2 nationals. You're playing against Dan Rothschild and John Schmidt. You probably remember that match. 2 super athletes, world-class tennis players. You made them look like they never played the game before. Do you remember the match? I remember the score.
I think I do. Yeah, I do remember the match, and I think I always enjoyed going out east because the guys in Midwest had played me enough where they started figuring out the spins and how to kind of counteract some of it. So when I went out east, they hadn't seen a lot of that stuff, and so a lot of those guys that were very, very good players for the first time would really struggle with it, which made me happy.
Players recognize talent. They recognize greatness. But they also recognize that the way you play is based almost exclusively on talent. In other words, if I'm not this talented, I'll never be able to resemble the way this guy is playing. But the other part of it, I think, is your persona. You're like a ghost. You've perfected the art of getting to the hut where you're playing 30 seconds before your match starts. So people only see you on the court playing, and then you shake hands and you're gone. So I think there's 2 categories of people when it comes to you. Is people who know you, and I think I got to know you fairly well in these last 4 years. I mean, we're partners now. It's a great honor for me. I enjoy playing with you. And there's people who have no idea who you are, but they would like to know you. But you put out this vibe that you're pretty much unapproachable. Do you think that's something fair?
Well, it's kind of a long story. I think when I first started out paddle, I liked the social aspect. And trust me, what's that place in Indianapolis, Daddy Jack's? I think it's legendary back in the day, and I'd be at Daddy Jack's till all hours in the morning. One time I remember coming up when the sun was coming up. and I went out and played a guy named Dr. Detroit. And was it Jeff Hodges?
Yeah.
And I lost to him, I think, in a 3-set match. and I think we beat them 1-0 a month or two earlier. And I guess what drives me is I'm a really competitive guy. I like to win. And I realized that going out to the parties on Saturday night, while I really enjoy all these paddle guys, I wasn't so good come Sunday. And so I think when I get to a paddle tournament, I'm pretty focused on trying to win.
All this stuff, all these things that people think about you know, the guy's changed the game, the guy does this, you know, he hits shots that nobody else can hit. And I realized in spending time with you that you genuinely don't see yourself as any of these things. Is it like, do the individual accolades mean nothing to you? I know you set goals and you wanted to win the Nationals. And you won two Nationals in 3 years. And if it weren't for those two guys who are just coming in right now, you would have had 3 in a row. We all know that. But is it like you set up the goal to win the Nationals and you achieved it and you moved to the next thing, and individual accolades don't really mean anything to you, or am I way off here?
I mean, obviously winning the Nationals is something special, and Flip, I think that's why we still play the game, is because it's that special. But I'm not one to look I don't live too much in the past, kind of worried about more in the future, so I don't sit around and think about my victory in Short Hills in 2008 or something. I'm more worried about what I got to do to start winning this tournament or in the future.
Is it fair to say that Brian Uihlein has kind of mellowed out in the last few years? You know, with marriage, I know you have 4 kids.
I think I've mellowed, definitely. I mean, back in the day, I remember playing league matches, and if I lost in a league match, I wouldn't stick around, talk to anybody. I was out the door, angry, on my way home. Now I could care less. So I think, yeah, I'm still competitive, but I'm not as crazy as I used to be about it.
What do you think was the tipping point? Was there a particular match, and this is from Mark Fischel, that made you a great player?
I don't think there was a particular match. I think it was learning over time, and I still think, you know, when you play with the best players year in, year out, you start figuring out what they're doing and what you need to do to beat them. I think I got a little smarter, and then over time I learned when to use my spin, when not to, when to be a little bit more patient, when not to be patient, how to play certain players, and I think that just accumulated over time. I don't think it was one match, boom, all of a sudden I'm going to win the Nationals or something.
I think when people watch you play, because of all the flashiness and stuff, obviously they're going to notice your serve and they're going to notice your overheads. I actually think you're one of the best lobbers in the game. I think you and Flip and Scott and possibly Drew Broderick, although I think Drew has a different style of lobbing. I think you're the best lobbers in the game, and I don't think you get enough credit for your lobs. I don't think you get enough credit for how soft your hands are at the net and how great your volleys are, particularly for a big guy. Would you say that if it weren't for the lobs and the soft hands at the net, and if you just leave yourself with, yeah, your competitiveness, we're all aware of it, but if you leave yourself just with that, and with the serve, and with the overhead spins, or spin overheads, is it fair to say that you wouldn't have had the same degree of success?
Well, for sure. I went out and played one of my first few Nationals, and we went out and played Scott Mansinger and Flip, and you know, I had the serve, I had the forehand, and I had the overheads. And the next thing I know, I was hitting every overhead within a foot of the baseline, and I think we got beat 6-1, 6-2. And I think I learned that how the importance of what a good lob is. And Rod Workman and you know, kind of taught me a little bit on how to lob and a little bit of form. And I think lobs are what sets your defense up. I think you see guys that are so talented now that a Parsons and a Durant can get away with not having good lobs because they're so talented on both forehand, backhand. But no, the lob's what sets everything up.
How has the game changed since you first started? And do you think that the extreme spins that you've popularized are as effective as they used to be?
I don't think they're quite as effective as they used to be. I think it's a combination. I think the ball's changed a little bit, but the athletes have gotten better, and I think there's more people hitting spin, so more people see it. It takes a tremendous amount to hit spin winners, as you know. So I think it's not quite as effective as it used to be.
Can you still win a national championship?
It's a tough one because I got my partner sitting here. I think I wouldn't be out here playing if I didn't think I had a chance. That being said, I'm also cognizant of my age and where I'm at in my life. And then I just mentioned Durant and Parsons watching, and got a chance to play him once, and I played Johan a couple times. These are young guys that are playing tremendous, hitting as well as I've ever seen. You've got Drew and Chris that are a phenomenal team. You know, I haven't had a chance to play Rob lately, but he's playing tremendous. So there's a lot of very, very talented teams. So while I think I got a chance, definitely not like I would have used to.
Do you think you can give us what has been your most rewarding individual win, and also the most devastating one?
I think probably my best win was I was playing in Charities, and we were in the quarterfinals, and I beat the 7-time national champion 6-0, 6-0. I never lost a game. No, I think my probably, if I think about one of my greatest wins, would be Dave and I were down, I think it was 5-2. I know we were down 5-4, 40-love in the third set against Howler and Casamano, and they were serving, and I'd been cramping pretty much the entire third set. We'd already played, I think, 3 3-setters that day, and it was the 5th match of the day. And we came back and won in a tiebreaker. And then we went on the next day to win our first nationals. And that was, for me, probably my greatest win. I would say not a devastating loss, but I was on the flip side of that with Juan and Jonason 2 years ago. And I think it was a phenomenal match. There's great shot making, Juan's drop shots, and Jonason's ground strokes were phenomenal. And I thought I played it, for me, that was probably the best match I played of the year, and I really enjoyed the match. That being said, we had a match point or two, and I had it turned around. We lost 7-6 in the third, but it was a great match. I wouldn't say it was a devastating loss because I really enjoyed the match. For about 15 minutes afterwards, it was not so good, but it was a tough loss, but it was still a fun match to play.
You know, for both those matches that you mentioned, the match against Flip and Scott at the Charities and this one, I was playing on the court next to you.
Yeah.
Both of them. And I just like, you know, there's so much stuff happening, you know, for different reasons. When you play Flip and Scott, we're playing Gambino Allmuller, Brad Easterbrook and I. And then I caught wind of the score. And it was like 6-1-1 love, and I just couldn't focus on my match anymore because I kept like looking at you guys. And I kind of, at the time, I thought it was the most difficult thing to do in any sport. I still claim it is. You know, Goodspeed Massacre were on top of their game, and to lose 0-0 against anybody, it was just mind-boggling. Name some of your toughest opponents over the years. And you know, obviously, what made them such tough opponents? This is also comes from Will Thompson.
Boy, I'm trying to think. That's a long, long list. I mean, I've had tremendous matches. Obviously, I've mentioned Flip about 10 times. Bill Fiedler was somebody that was incredibly talented when I was coming up. Very frustrating to play, tremendous hands, and no forehand. And you'd think a guy with no forehand in the ad court, there's no way I could ever lose to him. And somehow, some way, he'd managed to get himself in a position to hit an overhead or backhand. Phenomenal player. I've only played Parsons and Durant once, but truly amazing. I think Drew Broderick's as good as the game has right now, and is incredibly talented forehand, backhand, good around the net. Chris Gambino, I don't think I think there's nobody that's played better paddle tennis for the last 20 years. I think he has 3 national championships. Tremendous player, very, very smart. I think you're playing great. I think Juan did some things in that drop shot I've never seen before. So it's a long, long list.
And you've seen a lot of things.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one. I wish he would have missed a few more, but no, there's such a great amount of talented players now.
And I really thank you for mentioning my name alongside those great players. I'm not sure it's well deserved, but I thank you regardless. Alex Bancila, the Lake Forest Club with the great Brian Uihlein. Thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Yeah.